We're back, getting ready for Game 2, the third place match between Top Esports and Bilibili Gaming. Of course, game number 1, Top Esports absolutely stole away that first game from the claws of Bilibili.
Bilibili had it, they had the Baron buff, they had equal members, and they were pushing into the base, but with that clean call at the end, Top knew that they were all but done, so they had to throw their resources in, the base race, rushing all the way towards the Nexus. They managed to steal the victory away from themselves. Which
is so impressive, especially to be able to do against BLG, because we think of them as a very macro-oriented team, but they left an important macro element out, which is if you have a very strong AP split pusher with a Lich Bane in the bottom lane, taking down everything, maybe you should go back for that, but unfortunately they just did not have the time.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just their mid lane, of course, it was also their top lane. It was the duo with the TP in as well to get that little bit of extra damage down. It was everything down to the wire that was needed, and honestly, Top, they managed to take it away, and after a first game victory, they should be looking towards game number 2 to shore up some of the mistakes that they had, but it looked pretty good.
And speaking of looking good, we do have our MVP for game number 1. It is going to be 369 on that Vladimir. 32% damage share. He did a whole lot of damage during this, but Preacher, I disagree a little bit with this pickup.
Yeah, look, he held his own in top lane. You have to say that the dives that went towards him were fizzled out because his Vladimir was played very cautiously, very securely, but I would actually say that Knight actually did a lot inside of this game. I mean, he managed to make some plays by himself as well. Take a look, Meteor's off at the side, but he doesn't even expect this to be coming in. Bam! The last whack with the Q as well, just to get the solo kill, and more importantly, helping out everybody, making sure that he can get the leads, despite the fact that Top were down in gold for the vast majority of the game. Knight was still one of the factors keeping them in, getting those crucial kills for his team as well. So he did a lot of good work. He was the person who instigated that split push at the end of the game, but 369, because he had the 3-1-2 Vladimir, because he was so safe and he was there for the end screen as well, you can't discount it.
Yeah, of course, in this last fight as well, this is probably the reason he got the MVP. Yeah. That chase down at the end, absolutely disgusting on that Vladimir. But we look at that game number 1, and I honestly think Knight gets a little bit more credit, should get a little bit more credit than even I'm giving him currently, because that early game was completely under his control. He dominated not only the mid lane, but the Raptor pit. Because if we remember, there were multiple times where Knight just dove into the Raptor pit and was like, these are mine. Meteor, come get them. Yep. No? All right. See ya.
Yep, it was all his, right? Because that was pretty much Knight being Knight. He goes aggressive in the early game. He's got the good matchup for himself. He wants to 100-0 the QuiQui, did 100-0 the QuiQui, and he just dominated the rest of the map. Now, when you take a look at the rest of the top, unfortunately, you have to say XX was not playing to his usual. He didn't have that early game aggression, barely picked off any early ganks towards his Jarvan, and when you're into a Skarner, you're just giving him some free time to scale. So maybe XX needs to refine his playstyle coming into the second game to get that definitive lead that we're looking for.
Well, especially because when you have a situation where you're taking over the early game, you cannot afford to cede objectives. And of course, XX lost the Smite battle for that second Cloud Drake that kept BLG in the game, gave them a little bit more strength, a little bit more momentum mentally and literally, because it was a Cloud Drake. Yeah. So they were just moving around with that. You need to play tight if you want to be able to take down this game. And because of 369, because of Knight, Top Esports were able to clinch this one out. But going into game number 2, I'm a little bit concerned for their chances, because had it not been for that last play and the dive mid, things would have turned out very, very differently.
Yeah, very, very differently. So obviously, Top, they need to tighten that up. I like their draft. I don't think that that's something that they should depart from, because you take a look at into the bottom lane, not something they usually play throughout, but you've got a Varus in there. You've also got a Rakan in there. What does that provide? It's got engage, it's got lockdown, especially when you're playing around the Dragon Pit. That was very crucial, right? And honestly, they shouldn't have lost that Dragon War, but still, the fact that you have that under your kit just means that you need to drag more members along. And we gave MVP to 369. He did a lot of good work inside of that game. He should have been there for that Dragon fight as well. If everything else goes towards their plan, they should be able to play it out, but unfortunately it just wasn't executed in game number 1.
I think the big problem here as well is just how much of that game was in control by Knight in the early game from Top Esports. You want to have at least 2 people who are really just taking hold of the game and grabbing it and saying, all right, this is mine. But we didn't really have that, especially in the earlier stages. 369 was getting bullied, the bot lane wasn't faring particularly well, and as you said, XX was just not that active. Had Kuro not been absolutely smashed by Knight in the early stages of the game, especially with that beautiful solo kill early, BLG would have been in a much better position, and I think that is something that they need to watch out for coming into game number 2.
Yeah, look, if we're going to be talking about the fault of Top, we also have to say what exactly did BLG do and why didn't they secure it out? So while they did play towards this stuff, while they did wait it out, while they did fizzle everything, once again, huge props to XinMo for making sure that all of his lanes were safe, because there was always the dive potential of Knight and also XX. He didn't quite do enough in the late game. There was a Baron secure, but the calls were not clean enough. They saw that the enemy were rushing towards their base, and they had no real answer for it. They were being stopped in every single way, and you have a Baron buff for a recall as well, so they definitely need to tighten that up, and that's worrying. Because when we talk about top, and we take a look at their late game, we say, you can always tighten this up. This isn't what you're known for. You're known for the early game. But when you take a look at BLG, that's their strength. Where do you go when even your strength is being questioned?
Well, I mean, especially in this condition, I think it was just the fact that Top Esports were so incredibly clean in the calls. Because the decisions they did make, while not always correct, when they made them, they were incredibly decisive. Like the mid lane pickup, where they were able to pick off the support. Sorry, XinMo.
Yep.
That was just an instant decision to be like, okay, we found him. Everyone blow your cooldowns. Hold it. Okay, here's Chain of Corruption, then the knockup from Rakan. But they held the rest and waited for the dive. And then immediately, Knight and 369 dove past the tower into the team fight, picked up 2 more. That was a key moment for Top Esports that they need to keep that decisiveness.
Also good calls from them as well. Not only the last play, obviously, but also that play, because they knew that Kuro wasn't there. They knew that he was back and that he could never use teleport. Because if he did, burst down the turret. TP is no longer. If he doesn't use the TP, well, he's not actually in the fight. So either way, it was a win-win for Top. And when you see those clean executions, you have to say, that's what you need to look forward to. But they need to get more people ahead. Knight was ahead, but you need just one more to make sure that you get that solid gold lead, to make sure that you're always pressing against BLG so they can't comfortably scale.
Well, in that case, you know, we have Top Esports just need to clean up their act a little bit.
They do.
Which is unfortunately, it's debatably actionable between games, but they should be able to figure out what went wrong last game and be able to just not make those same mistakes
Well,
again.
once again, we have to go back to the fact that they're a momentum-based team. If they lose the first game, then generally they don't look too hot. But if they win the first one, we have seen, especially in playoffs, that they go on to really great heights. So potentially that could be one of their points for strength. But however, when you take a look at BLG, they never tilt. Regardless of which game, they literally reset game to game. So if they look that clean in game number 1, they're going to be putting up a fight in game number 2.
What is going to be the ace factor for them going into game number 2 that they absolutely should focus on as their first priority?
BLG?
Yes.
I think that they should actually get the Aatrox aside of their champion pools if it's not banned away from them. Because before, when we looked at ADD, especially in the regular season, we said, still an unknown factor. I mean, while we do know the player, we don't really know what his style is, how you can really define him. But in playoffs, especially that game against EDG on his Aatrox where he just popped off, he really made a name for himself. So that is one point of success. If you're still going to be playing late game scaling, because you got the Ezreal, because you got the QuiQui, because you want to get to full build, at least make sure that you got an Aatrox in top lane, at least make sure that your jungle is putting down some pressure so you have the room to get there.
I think giving ADD something to work with is a really good idea, because honestly, this is a terrible way to judge things. I'll admit it. But if you look at the highlight reels, they're not coming in from, you know, crazy ending Nexus team fights for BLG. But if you look at the highlight reels, a lot of the time, when you put ADD on those playmaking champions, like the Aatrox, like something like the Camille, that is able to make those game-changing decisions, he tends to be able to execute incredibly well. Him and Kuro are able to engage beautiful fights, and that leaves space for Jinjiao to pump out the damage.
Yeah, and more importantly, it's like a vortex, right? Where you sort of demand some pressure from your enemy jungler, and that's really what they need. Admittedly, though, in the very first game, XX wasn't really a factor onto the map, at the very least not in the early game, which is really where he needed to shine into Ascana. But if he tightens up his act, and if BLG should be expecting that as well, they need to neutralize it before they even run into the problem.
I'm hoping here for BLG that they're able to, as you said, they reset between games. I want to see this go to 5. Because I think this is one of the unique matchups where both of them, it is always, every single game is going to be that pendulum swing. It is, can Top Esports get a lead early? And if so, how far can they knock it before BLG start slowly pulling it back towards their side? Because we've seen BLG turn around these games before. We've seen them able to seed only what they can afford to lose.
Yeah, and look, that's really the important factor as well, right? Because while Knight did play the way that he wanted to play, the team was not enabled in him getting the side lanes ahead as well. Because there was a Skarner, but more importantly, there was a Tahm Kench as well. So when your enemy team set up such defenses, even though you get that early lead for yourself, you get the early advantage with the proto belt, so you have the burst, you can never get into your enemy's bottom lane. And when you can't do that, all of your plans fall apart. Because you can get your own lane ahead, but you need somebody else to get ahead. ahead. So once again, same problems, get another lane winner.
However, we do have TOP switching over to the red side, and we have one other interesting change. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but Ben is going to be subbed out for Chocho in the support position. Now, let's talk a little bit about Ben's performance in the last game, because I felt it was pretty darn good. He was going for roams, he was going for engages, he was able to make pickoffs in team fights. Why would you sub him out after that?
Yeah, I'm not too certain. Look, I have to say that Ben actually played reasonably well for the conditions that he was in, especially that Rakan. He was pretty much ADD's worst nightmare, locking him down every single time. You burned a flash, you burned an escape. Oh, I can actually chase you up and lock you down anyway. So, yeah, I didn't actually think that he was a problem. So, I guess we have to see the execution, but in my mind, I have no real good reason for it.
We'll have to see how Chocho does. And I think one of the things that we should talk about here especially is the relative experience of these teams, because Top Esports has more rookie solo laners. You know, both Knight and 369 are 18, 19, in that range. Last split, 369 was just 17, fresh into the league.
Crazy.
So they don't have as much veteranship. The veteran status comes from Ben and LokeN, in fact, and to a lesser degree XX. He's 21, he's been in the league 2 years or so. So they have a little bit of veteranship, but if you look at the side of BLG, one of the reasons we can say that they never tilt and they can reset game to game, you have Kuro, who's been playing professionally for years and years and years. He's been to 2 World Finals. You know, Coup Tigers, then Rocks Tigers. This man has been around, and that kind of veteran leadership, especially in these best-of-5 situations, is something you want to be able to rely on. And I don't know if Top Esports has that capacity so much, because we've seen them falter at the last moment before. That was the story of last playoffs.
Yeah, look, so when you take a look at that game and you're trying to reset for BLG, that one in specific is very easy to, because if you say block out the last 60 seconds of that game, looks like we should have won. Everybody else is on the same page, so it doesn't look like that you were really faltering in that sense. So shouldn't be that hard of a problem for the captains of the team to really get everybody onto the correct move. But in all honesty, they have to really prepare for what's in store. We just saw it. Ben's out. Choo-Choo's in. Honestly, I'm speechless in terms of what implication this has for the bot lane 2v2, what implication this has for the team fights as well, but only time will be able to tell what champion pool he has and what he picks out.
Well, they have the option, you might as well use it. We've seen this a lot with 369 and Moyu as well. However, that one I could argue was more towards performance, more towards tilt. You know what, we'll see. I trust BSYY to know what he is doing with these substitutions when he decides to switch out these players. So, well, we'll see what
I'll have faith when it wins, okay? I'll reserve myself there. It's really strange, especially because, look, I understand the mentality the top have. They won that last game, but in all honesty, it didn't look like they should have. It was an emergency play at the end of the game in order to really pull themselves back in. So I can see that you sort of want to change it up so that you're in a better position, so you have a better early game, so you can potentially get the lead like I was talking about. They definitely want that early game lead, but is Choo-Choo the solution? Still not sold on it.
I mean, there's the possibility it could be for something that we aren't able to see, right? Of course, communication, shot calling, anything like that, which could have been cleaned up with Chocho. And sometimes you just need to change, even with a victory. Like you said, it was not a decisive, clean victory. It is not the Top Esports we like to see. The Top Esports I remember most is their series against OMG, where Knight was on Jace 2 games in a row. He was just like, all right, this game's mine. I'm going to solo kill Icon. I'm going to kill everyone in the game several times. I'm going to end it before 25.
Admittedly,
twice.
Knight still did get a solo kill,
right,
so yeah, you can't really take that away from him. But yeah, look, we're not looking towards the late game. We're not looking towards the clean shot calls. We're looking towards the early game. If Choo-Choo can be more aggressive in the early game, if he can go on and engage support, if he can make sure that bot lane, if not getting ahead in terms of kills, at the very least puts down pressure, forces BLG to draft differently. Because when you take a look at that draft, honestly, Meteor had a field day. He could have just hard farmed, and that's exactly what he did. If you put down pressure to force him onto something like a Gragas, might go differently.
Wow, Meteor on Gragas is something I'm a little bit afraid of after that Baron steal he had, where he just ran into the pit. He's like, yoink, that one's mine. But now Ban's coming out hard and fast for game number 2. BLG going to be taking away the Yuumi and the Akali already. There goes the Vladimir. Smart takeaway from 369. And Top Esports have already taken away the Olaf. They've taken away the Silas. We'll see what their priority is here, because so far, I don't feel like BLG had a lot to take away. There's the Aatrox you were mentioning before.
Yep.
So
taking it off of ADD.
We won't be able to see that. BLG going to get XinMo that Tom Kench once again.
Yeah, and look, you always got to respect Ban pretty much whatever was MVP of last game. That Vladimir gave so much hell just because he was so safe and because he drew so much jungle pressure without giving anything away. So while that won't be available for 369, he's still got other champions. And most notably, I'm thinking about Gangplank. That should be early in the rotation for Top.
I highly expect the Gangplank to be mentioned, but it looks like Top Esports, they're going with a different support player, but they're going with the exact same support pick. So they're going to be taking out the Rakan once again for rotation.
Look, usually when you bring an ADC into the support position, you want that synergy. You need to know what is in store with that. If it's not taken away as a sort of denial by BLG, then this could be very deadly because they have got all of the knowledge in the world to really burst down 100-0 at level 2. So if anything, if there's a reason for this substitution in, I should be expecting a Xayah Rakan at the bottom lane.
Well, if we're looking at the rest of the draft, BLG are just having a field day. They're just going to repeat the last draft. They're saying, you know what?
Literally the same.
Last time it was rough. This time we've got a little bit of a better idea how we want to run it. Because they lost off that one play, right? Yeah. So you don't have to feel like it was a mistake as much. They're going to go with the Ezreal, the QuiQui again. Top Esports going to respond with the Xayah. And
you could already see the frustration that came out from Top, because while they did want to secure down this bottom lane that I was talking about, they also have to give away picking up Echo in the first rotation. Now that it's signaled, especially to BLG, I would be surprised if it's not banned away, because that is something that was a hard counter towards the QuiQui. You saw early game burst is something that counters late game scalers, especially like the QuiQui, and putting that onto the board is definitely not something that BLG want to fight against.
You don't want to give Knight something that can easily roam and assassinate people, because that is his specialty. He is so mechanically gifted. So they're going to take away the Kiana as well. See if they want to take away... No, they're going to go for the Gangplank once again and take away from 369. So Echo on the field once again. Top Esports has taken away the Skarner from Bilibili Gaming.
Yeah, it puts him into a position where he can't necessarily go for the strongest picks available. Of course, he still has Kennen in his wheelhouse, and when you take a look, 2 wins out of 3 games in total. Not too bad for 369, but still not one of the most experienced champs for him. Could be one of the directions that he wants to go for, but once again, if you take a look at every other member on the team available, not a lot of tank coming out from Top. So they're not looking towards the 5v5s, but then again, when would you into BLG? They're looking for the early game. Win my lane, make sure that I oppress BLG so they can never get to the late game portion.
Top Sports going to be... Oh, there's the Camille there for ADD, and it looks like they might be locking in the Sejuani as well. We have seen what BLG can get done with their top laner when they put him on a carry, especially this Camille. So we're going to see it once again with a Sejuani getting locked in there for Meteor.
Yeah, and look, I'm just curious to see whether that Jace goes top or whether it goes mid as well. Would have a very nice time into the Camille, but still, instead, they actually want to do it that way, because we thought that this was going to be Knight's Jace. We thought that he wanted to 100-0 the Corki, and it was going to be a solid matchup in the mid lane.
Oh,
but instead,
my God.
He takes something else.
That's going to be a Kassadin picked up by Top Esports. All right.
There it is.
I'm liking it. I'm feeling this one. You've got the anti-mage picked up into Kuro, and they've got late game insurance once again.
And it's so safe for themselves as well, because you reduce pretty much even the auto attacks from Corki with your passive magic resist. When Sejuani comes into gank, she relies heavily on the base numbers of her abilities. That's going to be taken away as well because of the magic resist that Kassadin passively brings. So it's going to be a great safe lane for Knight, and once he gets to level 6, watch out, because we've already seen Knight at level 6.
We've already seen what the Xayah Rakan combo can do, not in this one, but this is scary.
It is.
Whenever Knight pulls out a new pick, I'm a little bit afraid, because this feels a little bit, honestly, like Knight is just gotten his split MVP. He's like, I'm just going to pull out all the deep cuts. So he's already played it once before.
Some things change, but some things stay the same. The thing that is the same is that Knight is still on an assassin, still on a very high burst potential mid lane.
With Roam.
Yeah, he wants to really get that advantage for himself. But when you take a look at the other parts of the map, still, I like this draft better than their first draft, because you've got the Xayah Rakan, you've got the Insta-Gib at level 2 if they execute it flawlessly. You've got so much pressure on the side lanes as well. That's how they should have played in game number 1, and now that they've shored this up, it's all down to execution. Choo got subbed in, taken Ben out. Let's see if he can be the difference they need.
Feels like Top Esports have learned their lesson, not only from game 1 of this series, but from their last series against RNG. They've got the split push pressure back. They're ready to play the style that works for them.
No tank. Only early game, only burst, got an early game jungler as well. BLG, they need to play so safe and so vision heavy if they want to survive towards 30 minutes.
If they're able to survive that far though, and if they're able to stay back, they have so much poke against this squishy composition. You need a flank later stages of the game, but we'll see once again, can Top Esports pull out the miraculous strong early game they're known for, or will BLG drag them to their own victory in game number 2?
So one of the most important things that we need to think about is, of course, the laning phase. Very unorthodox picks means that we need to focus that way. In the top lane, you got the Camille into a Jace. Obviously, level 1, Jace is going to have the range advantage. But as soon as Camille gets a wall shot, hook shot, then it's going to be so much stronger for her. Because one of the hardest ways to play as a Jace is if your enemy has a dive into you. So if Camille engages, then the burst is honestly too strong to deal with. So if 369 can't get enough damage down literally at level 1, then level 2, he's going to be paying the price. But once again, we talked about the mid lane, so secure for Knight. He's not looking for anything, but nothing's going to happen onto him. And bot lane is another key focus for top esports because they've got very hard engage, but when you're talking about hard engage and you look towards an Ezreal and Tahm Kench, looks like it's very hard to execute.
It softens the engage a little bit, you know? It's just like, okay.
I mean, double disengage, right?
Yeah, it's just like, all right, we got Jinjiao, he's gotten eaten. Oh, he got out? Oh, cool, he just jumped away. We're in trouble now, but looking towards the mid lane as well, I want to see how well both mid laners are going to be able to perform here. Both of them are going to be picking up the fleet footwork so that they can get the sustain they need in this lane. A notable change from last game where Kuro was all about that burst in the middle lane. So once they get to those later stages.
Makes sense, because that electrocute was going to do magic damage, which once again is going to be reduced by Knight. So he wants to make sure that he has as good of a time as possible. One of the things that was really holding him back in the first game was the fact that he couldn't regen fast enough, and he got ultimately taken down by Knight in the 1v1 dive. So he wants to stay as healthy as possible, and he assumes that the thirst for blood in the first game wasn't enough.
ADD going to be able to get a good short trade there on the 369, forcing him to pop the second stack. It was Corrupting Potion. Now 369 going to go for a trade return, but Gragas for XX. I want to see this one because last game I wasn't super convinced by his
lackluster.
I wasn't convinced by his Jarvan, but I've been convinced by his Gragas many times in the past, and I believe also Xiaopeng in his face-to-face interview was talking about if there was someone whose Gragas you want to look towards, who would it be? And he said XX.
That's exactly who you want to play against, right? He is such a good role model. You need to turn your eyes towards him. A very easy engage in comparison, and when you take a look at the facilitating tools available, especially the engage from Choo-Choo, should be one of the avenues that this Gragas can get in. Now, I was saying in last game that the Jarvan loves to do lane ganks, but so does the Gragas. If you're not expecting it, if you get bobbed, especially XinMo, who is so squishy in the early game, could be deadly.
Bruce is now getting traded onto and stunned there. You're regressing a little bit too far. Meteor wants to try and get this, so ADD is trying to bait out a little bit. Meteor just going to start the back, though, so I don't think this gank is actually happening.
No, and Meteor also saw that there was a ward in the tri-bush, so if he goes in, then he needs to do an alternative route, which he's not going to do.
He's waiting, and 369 and Meteor both going to be backing here, so a little bit of time wasted there by Meteor, but at least ADD will get the control of the wave that he wants, and we're going to look at Knight's Runes here. Of course, the Presence of Mind going to give you so much mana sustain, and even this early in the lane, just level 4, yes, QuiQui doesn't have his poke just yet, but Knight is absolutely smashing.
Yeah, take a look at that. Fleet footwork and also thirst for blood means he's going to be so healthy. This is nigh impossible for Kuro to be playing into. I mean, hasn't even got the ulti, but still pretty much full HP. So looking harder and harder. Hasn't even burned one of the pots. So that's one of the craziest things about Cassidy, right? The fact that if you see your enemy mid lane and jungle matchup, then that could definitely be one of the points of failure. Going back to what I was expecting out of top, I was expecting the bottom lane to do more. And you can't fault them for their execution. You have to fault them for the way that they started out this game. Teleport on LokeN is to be expected on ADC, but usually when you pick a Xayah Rakan, you want that 100-0. You want the 2v2 skirmish. And the fact that he didn't go for a combat summoner in the heal means that you pretty much just neutralize the lane by yourself.
Of course, he's going to be going a little bit towards that passivity. He's going to be picking up the call. Going to maybe even up his gold earning potential against Jinjiao, who has Klepto, of course, but will give him a little bit more sustain, but less trading power. Of course, it could have just been an awkward gold timing.
Yeah,
Shoujo going to be able to get the knock up here. Not going to find a whole lot else, but it's good that top esports, the bot lane, is still being able to get the poke out so far.
And this is also very nice because top shouldn't be shoving as hard as they were before. They want to keep the lane as close to the middle as they can, so there's a decent amount of avenue to run forward with. But this is what we were talking about. Jace is out of mana now. ADD wasn't looking for the 100-0, but if he wanted to take it, honestly, he could have, because there was no real response coming out from 369. Didn't even have enough mana to bop him back after that wall shot, so ADD was in a really good position, and as it stands, he's still in a good position in this 1v1.
This is great from XX. He's going towards the Infernal Drake, going to be able to solo this one out because he knows his bottom lane's got the shove, his mid lane's going to be just fine. I don't think anyone's going to be able to interrupt this. The innate sustain from Gragas should be able to keep him alive at this point. He's mighty low, though. Going to get the smite. Get out just fine. Looking for... Oh, nice to be looking maybe for a kill on Kuro.
Oh, get the honey for...
Waiting for the rotation. Yep. Good knock away there from 369. Flash as well. Here comes the Hextech ultimatum. They might be able to find 369. Meteor in a lot of trouble. First blood goes down. Aftershock going to have the resistances to keep him alive.
However, Knight's here.
Knight's coming in to answer, but it doesn't look like he wants the kill just yet. He knows Kuro is waiting on the wings.
Just respects 3v1, trying to get down this turret. I don't think there's any more dive potential, but it was so cleanly executed now bottom.
That's some dive potential. They've already blown the E. There's the ultimate. XinMo might be in trouble.
Oh!
The flash body slam onto 2 from XX. They might not be able to find it. The shielding is just too much, and top esports are not getting the right end of these trades cross map.
I'm calling it right now. If LokeN had a heal available for himself, Choo Choo could have gone further ahead. If he got a couple more autos down onto BLG, either one of the two members could honestly be dead. But because there's a TP, they couldn't ultimately get the kills. The great health saved XinMo's life, and they didn't get anything on the bottom side. But turning our eyes back over onto the top side, what an amazing dive. As soon as we get the replay, man, I'm looking forward to seeing that tower reset.
Yeah, BLG played that incredibly cleanly. That said, 369 still evened up in CS, despite the trades we saw him losing as well early. And 369 has rotated in towards the mid lane, as Knight had to hold. So I think they're just going to rotate back as soon as 369 takes away all the CS that he can. Just casually trading farm under tower. Now, top esports going to reset their lane assignments. Was worried they might swap there for a little bit. Rift Herald going to be up in 2 minutes, next Dragon in 3.5. And so far, BLG are holding their own in this early game.
Yeah, that would have been a terrible swap if it did actually instigate, but luckily for top, they knew exactly where to distribute their players. And take a look at it. That was more or less a full burst from Kuro. Barely did anything to Knight. Doesn't even have to respect Potion, which means that Knight is in such good position within this game. Actually up in CS, obviously has his ultimate available, so it's getting harder and harder for Kuro, but Knight does need to get that lead because we still are waiting for it.
Good knock up 1-2 there from Chocho. He's got the aftershock. Jinjiao in a little bit of trouble, gets spit out. Going to be able to survive for now, but it looks like LokeN going to be finding more. Not able to get any additional damage there onto Jinjiao, so he's going to make it out. BF Sword is now on LokeN, so he's a whole lot scarier. Jinjiao just with the sheen and the tier. XX has been spotted out, I'm fairly certain at this point, by that control ward.
Still, because he's in his own portion of the map, shouldn't be too much of a collapse potential down onto him.
No mana for him to be able to try and initiate a gank either. No. So they're just like, all right, we know where he is, and we know he's going to do nothing.
Yeah. I mean,
pretty valuable information, to be fair.
Look, they were assuming that he's going to be playing the same as in game number 1, right? And so far, still hasn't made that much of an impact, although he did do a very good gank down bottom. Just unfortunately, couldn't chase a little bit further in order to get that kill.
Yeah, I mean, it's the BLG specialty. They just don't die.
I mean, it's an Israel top catch. That's a specialty, right?
No, it's BLG, I promise.
Oh, all right.
All right. BLG going to be looking for the gang into the top side. Second time, still going to be the charm here. 369 getting bullied. 0-2-0. We said it in game number 1, and we're going to see the reality in game number 2. 369, if he gets focused, we're going to see some tilt.
All right, so while we didn't see the replay of the very first dive in top lane, and we didn't actually see the execution in the second dive, the real strength of this combination is the fact that Camille can use her ultimate to reset the turret aggro. That's what he needed into 369, and honestly, Meteor can go for repeat dives over and over.
Oh, Chocho coming in, going to be able to find the charm on 1, charm on 2. There's the ignite going down onto Jinjiao. Are they going to be able to find any additional damage? LokeN goes in with the ultimate flash away from Jinjiao, going to be able to keep him safe. No E available for LokeN, so they won't be able to call those feathers back. They should be able to get plenty of pressure and maybe some turret platings off this tower. Yeah,
burned literally everything, couldn't get a kill. Jinjiao, you better get out of there. Because if there is any dive, then top could potentially kill him. He had to burn everything in order to survive in that. But at the end of the day, he's trying to save his plates. One's going to go over, but still, BLG's bottom lane is doing what they were picked to do. Don't die. And man, there were so many plays in the bottom side of the map, but they haven't died yet.
3v3 may be occurring around this Rift Herald. Teleport going to be coming in from LokeN as well. They know this fight is going to happen. They're trying to stall it out long enough that they can take it. The Rift Herald being secured there by Top Esports. 369 in a little bit of trouble. He goes in for the dive. It looks like Knight's going in with a little bit of damage of his own, but they're so low. So much poke coming out from Kuro. XX not going to be able to find the ultimate onto anyone useful. Not going to be able to put them into a good position. 369 still low. They're poking out. Knight goes in. He's out of mana, though. He's in a whole lot of trouble. Going to be able to find a little bit more mana with his W, but he's about to get taken down. He's so low. He gets the heal, but he gets taken down by Jinjiao. And now BLG should be able to chase this one out, and Top Esports going to be able to find the Rift Herald, but lose their mid laner in the process.
And that was so good for Top at the start, but they just didn't manage to find any members. They stalled out the fight because they wanted to bring Choo into it, even though there was a teleport from LokeN, but that was really the time that was needed for BLG to return damage. You just said it in the last fight, Knight had no mana. He jumped over the wall, nothing to get himself back over, and that was a clean snipe from Jinjiao as well, because realistically, Choo could have body blocked that last hit, but just didn't, and ended up going on to Knight, which killed him.
Now Top Esports are dedicating 3 people up to the top side of the map. Jungler, mid laner, and AD carry. And once again, just going to split the gold between the 2 carries they wanted on. It looks like that's going to be Knight and LokeN. XX was still in range. He's getting a little bit greedy on that Gragas, but you know what? He's going to be able to land ultimates all game. I don't see why not.
You can't complain about an early game Gragas getting an advantage. He spreads it around to pretty much every lane that he visits, but Top isn't stopping. They want to continue going, and this is a smart plan from their team composition because they need as much gold as soon as possible.
Engage there onto Knight. The Hextech ultimate has been blown. He goes back in for the engage, flashes away to safety. They're going to be able to take down ADD. Can they find anything else? They will take down the tower. Top Esports not going to lose anything off this trade. 2 towers for nothing.
Very questionable. Because BLG already knew that they wanted to distribute Jinjiao onto the bottom side of the map in order to continue getting turret plates onto that 1v0. But then ADD re-engages onto top under his own turret. Sure, it's under your own turret, but you haven't got that many members. There's a Rift Herald who's swiping. That one swipe still does so much damage on the champions, and everybody else just managed to take down a pretty squishy Camille, who won't be building tank anywhere into the game, but especially in the early game.
Now, Top Esports have been able to even out the gold lead. Get, well, 300 in their favor at this point. Knight going to be going down to the bottom lane, and already they're looking to set up this split push for their mid laner. He's picked up the Rod of Ages, so they're going to have a little bit of time before he hits his mid-game spike with that item, but now he's in a whole lot of trouble. Has to Rift Rock away. Now, Top Esports should not be able to find an engage off the back of this, but they know that the Cloud Drake is still up, still under contention potentially. A little bit of trouble here. Potential fight starting out.
And this is good for BLG. BLG don't want to fight Nibiria, but take a look at the goal differential. There isn't one, and that is really the place they want to play towards. They want to make sure that they continue scaling there. We've said it time and time again, but it's their MO, and so far, they're definitely in the wheelhouse to do it. Even though they lost 2 turrets onto the top side of the match, which does mean that ADD is going to have a really tough time if he gets ganked. Nonetheless, they managed to even out the gold with the kills that they got in return. So, Top, you're punching the clock, and so far, is still at differential of 0.
However, they do have that caster.
They always have the caster.
It's a little bit of late game insurance for them, especially with Knight, who's going to be performing on that, especially with his last game performance on Ezreal. Or, sorry, Echo. It's the first thing you think of with an E because nobody plays it.
I mean, he's definitely fallen out of meta in recent times. But yeah, like the whole point about Top is that even though he got ahead, he couldn't make his way down into the bottom lane because there was no lane priority. They changed it up in this game because they want the Xayah Rakan. So he had all the time in the world to visit bot lane, but he didn't. He never got an advantage for himself in his own mid lane, so he could never spread the advantage to the rest of his teammates. And this is all a series of complicated dominoes for Top Esports. You need to have everything fall in your favor. You need the early game. You need a clean path into the bottom lane. In game number 1, the clean path didn't work out. Game number 2, early game didn't work out. And so far, BLG is punishing them.
If Knight gets those items, though, is going to be a big concern. If he ever hits level 16, suddenly these team fights are really scary for BLG because as soon as he gets 1 kill, they're in trouble. But here comes Chocho with the engage. He's going to be able to find the charm onto a few. Teleport coming in from the backside from ADD. He's going to be looking to help with the engage into this fight. Oh. But a good body slam from XX. Here comes the Hextech ultimatum onto him. Flash away from LokeN. He's going to be able to keep himself safe for the time being. ADD gets taken down. BLG getting chased away by Top Esports. Can they find anything else off the back? The flash in from 369. The damage. The body slam from XX bopping down another kill. 2-0 in kills there for Top Esports in that fight.
He wasn't a tank, but he still wanted to go into the front line. A 4-man queue, while no kills were actually insinuated by that. You got to say, 369 disengaged the entire situation. Pulls up some kills for his own team as well. Way too deep of a TP for ADD. Didn't respect the enemy team's burst, and once again, falls for his efforts.
Now Top Esports are going to be able to pick up this Cloud Drake off the back of things. Knight was going pretty aggressive under that tower for a Kassadin, but just zoning them off so that LokeN can get a little bit more damage there. Half health on the mid lane tower. Top Esports come away from this one with an almost 2K gold lead and another dragon to their name. And the next one's going to be just as important. It's another Infernal.
That is going to be so strong for Top. So naturally, eyes have to turn towards that arena. Take a look at this. The biggest thing that you've got to watch out for is the cast, because it did happen. But then again, the teleport into the back line, everybody from Top is moving backwards. The bot meant that there was a temporary stun onto ADD, and he doesn't actually want to get out of his own Hextech ultimatum, which is ultimately keeping him in the cage, and everybody else collapses back. 369, what a manly play. Picks up 1 kill onto Jinjiao, but it was so well played from Top to really fall back onto ADD and the chase forward.
Really, it was just absolutely beautiful there from XX. Or 369 and XX, because I thought 369 was going a little bit too aggressive. I thought he was feeling the pressure from all the damage he'd taken in the top lane, but no. He was just like, I know that I can get this damage. I know I can bait them to turn. So he went golden. Then XX comes in with the body slam behind it. This is the clean skirmishing that we're looking for here from Top Esports.
And don't forget, there was also a cast to start it all from XX. So while he threw that cast in and it only pretty much hit XinMo, what he wanted to do was separate him away from Jinjiao and Kuro. He wanted to make sure that the Tahm Kench was as far away from the 2 key players as he possibly could have been, so that he couldn't save them from the impending burst. And when you talk about Top's composition right now, it's all about burst, especially in the early game. If you get 100-0 somebody and Tahm Kench is not around, they're dying and they're not getting out.
Well, once you take down one person, suddenly Knight has a whole lot more mana to work with. So these team fights, once they start going well for Top Esports, they will not stop going well for them. They're going to be setting up for that. And of course, if you look across the board, it's a little bit different from last game. The composition is the same from BLG, but their dominance on it has not been the same. Last game, they had CS leads in the solo lanes and the AD carry position. But this time, it's Top Esports with the leads. So I'm getting a little bit concerned because XX playing so much better. If the CS is going in their favor as well, this is a much stronger early game from Top Esports.
And we also saw the explosive team fights from Top Esports early on, but this is what they're looking for.
Cassie into the wall. There's the knock up on ADD. Hextech ultimatum not going to be enough to keep you alive. 369 going to be able to pick that one up onto ADD. Top Esports find the tower in the mid lane.
Group up as a 5-man unit, 18 minutes in, managed to get a turret and a kill for their name. Take a look, 1k gold advantage, and now Top, they're just looking to increase their lead. When you're going into BLG, who still have a relatively late scaling team composition, always with the QuiQui and Ezreal in mind, it does mean that you have free flow of the game before 20 minutes. Just went for the dive, not a lot of response. Oh, this looks bad.
This is really bad. 369 is chased down by 3 people. There's no way he survives this one. He's just got to stall as long as possible, maybe force out an ultimate from Meteor, but it doesn't look like he'll even be able to do that. Shutdown going to go down in favor of Kuro. 1-0-1, Trinity Force Sork Boots on that QuiQui now. A little bit of problem there, but now Knight's able to freely split push in the top lane. He's already got that Roa at 6 stacks. He's getting scary.
Yeah. And we were saying that Top Esports finally managed to get a very definitive lead for themselves. Pretty much gave it away with 369 moving past where his range of vision was. His team didn't know where BLG were, and he pays the price with his life. So once again, throwing it over to BLG, and BLG catching the ball and making sure that they can get ever closer to their power spikes.
BLG steal away the blue buff as well. This is incredibly strong for them because, of course, the enemy mid laner, that's a cast.
Yeah.
You want to give that as much mana as possible. So taking that away is going to be a good sign there for BLG. LokeN will pick up the red buff, though, so they've got plenty of farm going down. And at this point, where are we going to see the next fight? Because you've got a minute 15 till the next dragon. 20 seconds till Baron spawn.
Yeah, next Drake is going to be the biggest objective, so both of these supports need to get a whole lot of vision down onto the Dragon area, onto the Dragon Pit, and more importantly, deeper into the opposing team's jungle, because if you don't know, there is so much mobility from Knight, but there's also so much mobility from ADD.
ADD's in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah. I was about to say, if ADD decides to group onto the bottom side where this Drake is going to be spawning, this Infernal Drake, then he could actually catch a crucial member out. So very strong vision is the name of the game if Top want to secure this Drake down for themselves.
Well, will help if they're able to get the tower down, get that wave pushing to the point where there's no way that BLG can stop it. 30 seconds remaining until the Infernal Drake. Kuro will pick up the wave, so that's not going to be in favor of Top Esports for this fight. Teleport is available from 369. He's going to back try and pick up 2 items, so he's got a power spike to work with in this fight, as does Knight, who's picked up the Archangel's staff. Not fully upgraded just yet.
But it's all about the base stats that it provides. He's got his item power spikes. He's used his gold. That's what you need. BLG, they're camping here, though.
They're looking for this fight. They want to poke out before this starts. Not going to be able to take out the only vision they have. Predator's been popped by XX. It's just going to zone for the time being. No one's starting up the Drake just yet. A little bit of poke coming in from Kuro.
That was just a check, because of course the bombs does give you vision over the Drake once you proc it. So he knows that Top hasn't actually started the Drake, which means that BLG can actually fall towards the mid lane. But, oh no!
Looks like looking for a fight. We hear it getting started up a little bit. Started up and reset, started up and reset. True Shot Barrage not going to be able to find anything. 4,000 health on the Dragon. If BLG want to stop this, they need to go in now. They're not going to go for it. XX going to be able to secure the Infernal Drake with no contention there from BLG. So this early game, so much better from Top Esports. They've got 1,000 gold lead. They've got 3 towers in their name. They've got 3 dragons. And they've got a damn Kassadin.
Making that name for themselves, they definitely get this lead. And more importantly, BLG were just mind gaming themselves. They thought that Top were doing it, threw out the rocket, only hit the Drake, nobody was actually hitting it, so they back off, and the Top bursted down 100-0. That control ward was definitely MVP, and honestly, there was no way that BLG was getting into that pit to clear it, so they had no clue, and they couldn't have gotten any vision in order to get that down. And I think the biggest thing that was pulling the trigger, but instead, all right, never mind. The biggest trigger for that was actually Jinjiao using his ulti. Because once that ulti was whiffed, didn't hit any members, Top just said there's no burst available onto us, let's just take down the Dragon.
Yep, and now it looks like the Rod of Ages will be almost fully stacked here for Knight. But in the bottom side of the map, you have LokeN, who's picked up his 2-item spike. He's got the Infinity Edge and the Essence Reaver. This is so much raw AD coming in. His spells are absolutely going to chunk. We were talking about how this composition has so much burst between the Jace, between the Gragas, between the Kassadin even. That's about as bursty as you're going to get with the Xayah as well.
And more importantly, the Gragas is going to come up really huge for the team comp, because if you could bust away the Tahm Kench that he doesn't save whoever you're trying to burst, that is going to be the MVP play that actually gets you that kill from your burst potential. But ADD's looking for this.
Uh-oh. ADD's looking for it, and Meteor's here as well. Hextech Ultimatum's been blown. Knight needs to survive for the time being. Teleport coming in from both teams. Knight going to go down, in fact. He still stays alive for the time being. He's able to pick one up on the backside. ADD gets taken down. Top Esports have 2 teleports coming in. Jinjiao in a whole lot of trouble. He's going to be able to try and get away, but no E available. The double kill there for LokeN. Knight miraculously survives, probably regretting the fact that he doesn't have a Dark Seal.
Knight is a beast. There was no realistic way that Kassadin should have got out of that 2v1. ADD even locked him up, so that his first ultimate was for naught, but then he kept it calm. The rest of his team was collapsing on, and he actually ulties upwards instead of towards the left, which is what saved him, because there was no way that BLG could actually dive into the other members of Top, and he secures that kill while the rest of his members get another one.
They're going to be looking for the Baron here as well off that play. Knight was able to push out the wave. Here comes the teleport. Chocho looking for the engage on an ADD. Not going to be able to find it, but Knight goes in real aggressive. Not going to be able to find ADD, but they might be able to find Meteor. That is so much damage from the Kassadin. He is still chasing down. He's low on mana. They found the kill. They found the presence of mind. Knight has mana, but ADD doesn't have a health bar. He goes golden. Has a Knight ticking on him. He goes down as well. LokeN now 4-0-3 on this Xayah pickup. The Baron still available.
So well played by XX in that. I mean, while you can say Knight was doing so much damage, not even caring about what the return damage could be from BLG, it was actually Knight's body pop that stopped Camille mid wall shot to make sure that she couldn't get out from that very precarious choke point. So she was caught up, she was taken down, and that seems to be the story of this game, Niberia. Take a look at that scoreline. 0-5. Pretty much every single time that ADD was looking for a forward play, he was ultimately putting himself into a core position against Top's composition.
Now, I am going to say one thing that did not go well there for Top Sports, and you're going to see it on your screen right now. The Baron, because XX went down too aggressive trying to take away the red buff, they know that they can take this. There's no threat of a counter smite. So if Top Esports want to stop this, they full stop need to go in for a fight. But Knight has no mana at this point. LokeN trying to poke into the pit. 2,000 health remaining on the Baron. ADD goes in onto Knight. The Baron is secured there by BLG. But how many members can Top Esports take away? Knight should be able to find ADD on the back there. That's 2 members down, but that's 3 members still with the Baron buff. Meteor, they should be able to find him. Chocho and XX going in. There's the knockup, there's the body pop, there's the barrel, but Meteor jumps over with the flash. Knight picks up the kill. So they didn't get the Baron, but a lot of kills go over to Knight, and he's almost at that level 16 mark. This Kassadin is about to get even scarier.
Not that bad of a situation for Top, in all honesty. I mean, they lost out the Baron, but they could have just had a clean escape from BLG. Nonetheless, they managed to pick up 3 members on the return side, so only the 2 carries have the Baron buff remaining. Pretty good for Top. So while they have no jungler, they're hard focusing on the XinMo because they know that he has no disengage, but after all is said and done, take a look at the blue members in the red part of the jungle. 2 managed to get out because of the Baron recall, but Meteor gets stopped by 369, and there's no way that this Sejuani is getting out. So 3 members dead for BLG, while there are 2 remaining with the Baron buff, does mean that Knight's actually going to be going back with a whole lot of gold.
And I will say, it was a beautiful foresight there from BLG to realize that XX was down, immediately turn for the Baron. This desperation play has kept them in the game for a lot longer. They still have 2 minutes where Top Esports essentially cannot push into them.
Yeah, I mean, that Baron buff is always going to be hampering you, especially as a Kassadin who only relies on magic damage in order to push through. But this is a 2v1, but we've seen this before. Knight has outplayed it, so I don't really know why they're distributing it onto the top side.
Well, he outplayed it, but only with the help of 2 teleports from his own team. Those are no longer available. Oh my god, they are really dedicating their time on the Knight. Hextech Ultimatum will not land on the Knight, so he's going to be safe for the time being. He cannot defend this. There's the Baron buff on the full wave at this point. Should be able to shove this one in, but Knight still looking maybe for an assassination.
I mean, he's got his eyes on the ADD. He's done it so many times before. You can see from the score line of ADD. But more to the point, Top were trying to get a response down onto the bottom side. They're trying to put pressure into mid lane so that BLG can't defend bottom, but now they have to back off. And once again, 1 minute remaining on Baron buff means that it's so hard for Top to actually push into BLG.
That said, I think Top needs to start pulling the trigger pretty soon. They do have a 4K goldie, they have the 4 dragon, sure. But if you've been paying attention to all the fights so far, Kuro was able to chunk out XX so easily. Remember, there's no tanks on the side of Top Esports. So suddenly the damage from BLG coming back in is scary.
Now hold up. While BLG does have a better late game composition if you get the full build, Top Esports late game isn't actually that bad. They have a Kassadin, they have a Xayah, they got double Infernal, and if they wait long enough for 35 minutes, they can play towards an Elder Drake as well. 4 Drakes to their name is very hard to deal with.
Very fair point, but at this point, Top Esports as well have hit their item breakpoints. You have 3 items already set up there on Knight, including the Zhonya's Hourglass. That is going to be so key for his playmaking. Gives you time to wait for the Rift Wall to reset. And in the bottom lane, you've got LokeN with his 3 items as well. Now he can poke with the Rapid Fire Cannon. So much damage and playmaking potential. 3 out of 5 members have a way to put themselves in stasis. 369 with Guardian Angel, XX and Knight with the Zhonya's Hourglass. These team fights that Top Esports have already been slamming home with are going to get even better for them.
Yeah, they look so strong, and right now BLG are still not at their optimal power spikes in relation to Top. We already mentioned it, there is a gold lead for Top, and they've even got the double Infernal. If BLG take a straight 5v5, doesn't look good for them.
It looks like Knight has finally fully evolved his Archangel staff, so he's got that shield for even more defensive stats. This next fight is going to decide the game, and 369 and Chocho both looking on the flanks. They know if BLG walk up, they can find anything, but it doesn't look like BLG are going to fall into the trap.
I mean, BLG aren't really going to leave their base at the moment. The only turret that they have out is bottom lane, and if it gets aggressed on, realistically, they have no motive to defend it. Just defend your base, make sure that those turrets are still healthy, and you're ready to roll. I mean, it's already close to 30 minutes for this team, and if they could just wait it out even longer, the longer it goes, it works out for their team composition. But yeah, we did say that there was a contingency plan. Top are not completely locked out if it goes beyond 35 minutes. They've got the Kassadin. They've got the multi-Drake, Elder Drake that they can always fight towards. If they want to trade a Baron for it, it is very worthwhile in their mind. So, doesn't look that bad for Top, but BLG is looking even better.
BLG looking pretty strong. They're going to be able to defend themselves for the time being, but the question is how much longer they can defend themselves. Because the Baron buff is coming up in a minute 15. The next Dragon as well, a minute 50. That would be 5 Drakes in the pocket of Top Esports. At that point, once they get the Elder Dragon buff, it's over.
That's it. You would contest for a Baron, but you would not contest for a Drake. So imagining all things play out safe, it looks like Top is going to get a 5 Drake, which is super scary to deal with, especially seeing as it's going to be double Cloud as well as double Infernal. But more to the point, BLG just playing it slow.
BLG still keeping slow. They're trying to keep up in items. Not quite to the 3-item power spike there for Kuro's QuiQui, but he's got the Trinity Force, got the Infinity Edge. Oh, this is going to be a scrap. Knight,
he sees that back.
He really doesn't need to go aggressive here. They're going to be able to pick off Jinjiao, but Knight is in a whole lot of trouble. Actually, he just gets the 1v1. His team left him. ADD all alone. 0-7-3 now on this Camille. Top Esports might just be able to turn this one once again.
Don't mention the scoreboard. It does not look that great for ADD, but more to the point, Top are now barreling down.
Going to be able to find the inhibitor tower in the mid lane. Going to look for the inhibitor as well off the back of this. Top Esports are finding the shove. The bottom lane tower going to fall quickly as well tonight. He's going to be able to push that in. Then that is the decision for them to back. 5 seconds till the Dragon.
Look, so while there is a very good late game 5v5, the question must be asked. Who is going to deal with Knight on the side of BLG? Because no person can 1v1 him, and pretty much nobody can 2v1 him either. So it's going to be so difficult, and more to the point, he's flanking in on this fight.
The only thing you can do is try and stall the inevitable, but it looks like the Top Esports getting taken down pretty low. But here comes Jinjiao, massive amounts of damage from the backline. Top Esports are running away with this fight. There's nothing you can do to stop Knight. There is nothing you can do to stop LokeN. Triple kill on that Xayah, and Top Esports look to take it to 2-0.
It was way too desperate from BLG. They wanted to contest the Baron, didn't know that that Baron was ultimately a bait to bring them into a fight. Knight was there to flank around the side, and by that time, BLG had no exit strategy.
And now Top Esports have taken it to match point. 2-0 over BLG in the third place decider. Next game is BLG's last hope to stay in the gauntlet.
And that is really it. Top Esports, we were expecting them to come out trumps because they had such strong early game. First game, it was wavering. We had a lot of questions for them. Second game, they bring in Choo-Choo, take out Ben. I was asking the question, why exactly would you do this? Looks like it worked out so strong for them. I mean, those calls were crisp, especially that last Baron play. And you could see they pretty much never let go of the gold lead, always accumulating it for themselves. And once again, if it didn't happen in the first game, I'm going to be really mad if Knight doesn't get an MVP in that second game because his Casson popped off.
Yeah, but honestly, we saw there were so many things that we pointed out in that first game for Top Esports where we're like, okay, this part was good, but this part, I wish they would smooth this over. I wish they would fix this up. I feel like all of the issues that we thought they should Band-Aid, they didn't just Band-Aid. They were just like, we're going to slap a cast on this thing. We're going to nail it down. We're going to make sure this doesn't move. We are going to win this game. XX especially, I feel like stepped up in a huge way on the Gragas compared to the Jarvan. Because that early game on the Jarvan, fairly non-existent, but in game number 2, his casts, his body slams, all his playmaking was so much more effective.
It was just what the doctor ordered, especially his ultimate. So while his E was really good, I mean, there were two very distinct times when he caught out ADD to make sure that ADD couldn't actually get out of any collapse that his team had available. His ultimate onto XinMo to make sure that the TK could never eat any of the vital members was really what propelled that team ahead. And more to the point, Top were clean about the calls. If you have to give credit to Choo-Choo, then maybe you give credit to Choo-Choo because they were fighting around Drakes. Every single time a Drake was up, they weren't just taking it, they were actually getting priority over that Drake. Some of them resulted in them getting kills, which was really good for the team because they ended up with 4 Drakes to their name, they ended up with 19 kills to their name, and yeah, they really knew their advantages and how to take them.
If it was 19 kills in a BLG game, you know that BLG did not have anywhere near as much control as they wanted to have because Top Esports, I feel like for the first time in this series, I know it's game 2, but they had actual control over this game. They had actual momentum. We were saying they're a momentum-based team. Well, they are rolling downhill at full speed into BLG, and BLG need to find a way to stop them because at this point, it's not looking good.
Yeah, and look, the simple holdout until 30-minute strategy did not work out for BLG. The QuiQui and Ezreal composition, they've won so much in the regular split with it, but up against a team like Top who can exploit you in the early game and make sure that they never drop that lead, it looks nigh insurmountable. I mean, they never really got to the power spikes. Even in the first game, it didn't look like they were getting to that power spike. Maybe it's time to change it up. Maybe it's time to see Kuro and another champion. And even if you are substituting away a QuiQui for an Azir, I like what they do with the Azir because they go for other things like the Kindred as well. Maybe that's the breath of fresh air they need in order to actually win this game.
Yeah, because you see Kuro make so many aggressive engages with the Azir that you just can't with the QuiQui. There is no Shurima shuffle. Yeah, there's the special delivery, but that can only happen every few minutes. There's only so many you can put out on the map, whereas the Shurima shuffle is a much more guaranteed way to start a fight and disrupt it from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it also lapses, right? So if your enemy are really cognizant of the timing, then they can just wait it out so you don't have the package anymore. And after you lose the package, they hard engage. That looks like what the game number 2 MO was from Top Esports. So yeah, maybe you need to switch it up, but you can't just give it over to Kuro. You can't just say maybe that's a switch up, because you got to call it when you see it. ADD's Camille, it was great in lane, but as soon as he faced down into Knight, did not look that good.
Well, it was such a problem because he felt like he was a lot more effective than he was. He felt like he had all this damage. He felt like he had all this tankiness, because in the top lane, yeah, against the Jace, you're able to bully him out, but once you're against someone who's actually fed, who's actually farmed up, you're not having that success. And he was able to find engages,
yeah,
which was beautiful, but there was never any follow-up.
That's it, right? I mean, that's a trust fall. When you fall backwards and your partner's checking his phone instead of actually catching you and you fall onto the ground. He was diving in, multiple members were around him, and they dive backwards rather than forwards with him, leaving him alone against Knight. Maybe that's really going to scar him into game number 2. BLG do reset, but it's hard to come back from that.
It's hard to come back, but they're going to have to if they want to stay their chances alive of getting to Worlds. So we'll be back in game number 3. Match point. Top Esports might be able to take it. Stick around.